It's is or isn't. That's
and
all
that's
it is.
the realm. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said in the beginning. You live in the realm of is or isn't.
No, that's,
and I'm not. And I'm not saying. And I'm
the
not
problem
saying.
is, Gia, you live in that same world too.
And you just agreed
But listen,
to it.
no. It has been oppression of women. This, from a feminist standpoint, oppression of women. That women's place was to be the nurturer, right? And the men is the provider.
Yes.
So you want
And
to be masculine. You want to be the provider.
I'm just saying. I think in the future, right? I think we're now. I think what's going on in society right now is a really unique situation where never in history, right, has women literally equality in pay. They're doing the same jobs as men,
and
they're just
terrible.
But I think it's also
I'm not
destroying us.
All right, hold on. Before we get into before I completely debunk your whole thing on the gender pay gap, which is utter horse. But the reason why it is because we have what's called a division of labor. And the reason we have a division of labor is because women are the vulnerable sex and men are the disposable sex. They are the sacrificial sex. Next time there is a war, you will not be asked to go fight that war.
Can I touch on that?
The rights that you enjoy right now, your reproductive rights and everything that you enjoy in this country right now is defended by men. And you have the luxury
you exist because of a female, and I want to put that out there.
We don't deny that.
Do not deny that.
Hold on.
He's not discrediting that.
One person at a time. Bree, go.
I think that is 100% okay. Women are here to do things that men cannot, and men are here to do things that women cannot. We are here to complement each other. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's a problem when you make it a problem.
Either, but I think so often we look at the women as the nurturer and the men as the provider.
But that's
That is your natural
what we're here for.
That's okay.
Gia, can I say?
That's what we're made for.
Gia, let me say two different things.
Welcome to planet Earth.
Number one. The fact that it was that way previously is not because of culture; it's because of genetics. It is a function of genetics, and the reason why. Remember, I went to.
Sure, yes. A man, correct. Whatever he just said.
Genetics. So all these people who are like trying to show body positivity to try to change the way we view women, that's never going to work. When we talk about like body positivity or things like that, when we see Victoria's Secret trying to change the way men view women, that's not going to work because of that whole thing. We're not going to change the way we do because it's a function of genetics, and that's what the 37 culture study proves. Is it's a function of genetics. What you're saying in the future is also true. Do men want a man or do men need a man? I'll tell you one thing that we don't talk about that much. It's how many women own guns. Because here's the thing, Davrick, it legitimately does change the argument. During the time when King Xerxes invades Sparta, they needed those Spartan men to defend Greece. There was no question, and there were no women going out there to do that. Today, women, when somebody breaks in their house, women have Mossbergs and Glocks, and the thing has that part of it has definitely changed. But when we talk about what you said before, when there's a firefight, it's dealing with police, or if the Chinese invade, all of a sudden men become extremely useful again.
Yeah, that's because their ego, their masculinity, which
no,
is
they are
very
ego.
rightful.
We're better at fighting.
We need that.
We're better at fighting.
Listen, per chance, because you fight from a brutality perspective, right? But a female might fight with a mentality perspective, right? And I think that's what the difference is.
When the bullets start flying, it won't matter if you're fighting.
Maybe,
in the
but why do we have to? Why is there bullets being shot? What if a female comes into play and is able to basically handle things better than a man did?
Then they should try.
That
Again,
ensues violence, but a female is like,
somebody breaks in my house,
they've had the past 70 years to do that.
I feel like I never got my board in before, but
Good.
what I was going to say was basically I feel like it's also contradicting at the same time, because I feel like in this industry, I'm sure Gia can relate. But so we work in the bottle service. We're never gonna make this money that we're ever gonna make again. It's based off looks. We make more than doctors. We make the best money ever. Only girls like you content also. We make way more than guys could ever make, like 10 times more. But then so the guys also, when I've been in relationships, they've always been like, oh well, you make more money, like you're gonna pay for it, kind of thing, because they assume because we make more money than are also like busters, you know.
So in general, you're talking about in your environment.
They know how much we make. They know how much we make, and they know like sometimes they feel like, oh, you make way more than I do, so like you pay for it.
Because I love you, Michelle, but the 3 men at this table make more money than you.
I know. I'm just saying, guys, in general. Like, if we were to date, like,
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
If we were to date a regular guy.
Can I just say something? Tap me in.
I've
only dated one guy out of below my tax bracket, right? Treated me worse than I had ever been treated before. So I was like, why the would I do that again?
You're like,
right? Why the? took care of the bill, took care of this, trying to help him. Like, oh,
I gave an ugly dude a chance.
But do you know why? But do you know why that happened?
Gave one normal guy a person a chance.
But do you know why that happened? Because men feel like they need to be providers.
I will never. Yeah, and I love that. Honestly, the one thing COVID taught me is I want to be home. And I want to go get pedicures and go be on the country club. And you can go do whatever the f you want.
Yeah, but you can do that with your own money. And I feel like sometimes I feel like men will look at women that are in bottle service or OnlyFans and they'll think of them lesser. I'm not going to marry that girl because she has an OnlyFans or she's in bottle service.
I don't have an OnlyFans.
No, I'm not talking about you specifically.
I've been in bottle service. I worked for Tao. I worked for Tao Group. I worked for Tao. I will always go back to stripping.
Number one. This is the thing. Men will be like, I won't marry a stripper. I won't marry a girl in OnlyFans. I won't marry a girl that does bottle service. But she makes a ton of money, and that's intimidating, right? However she makes that money. But a man will be like, you know what? You have an OnlyFans.
Can it be something else than intimidation?
And the thing is,
can it simply be you make a ton of more money than I do, and you make more money than 90% of guys because you're on OnlyFans, and most likely, I don't know what your earning is, but if you're one of the top 10% earners, you're going to be making more money. If you're even on Instagram and you're flying to Aruba or people are taking you, you are a bottle girl because people are putting you into that position in the first place. 90% of the guys who you're going to meet are not going to make as much money as you. They're not going to have, in this case.
Well, let's ask Gio. Gio, the top 10% of wage earners in the United States make what? What do you think?
$80,000.
No, the top 10.
Top 10%, yeah. Let's you answer.
The top 10%.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 250.
It's about 170. The top 1%, what do you think they make?
Over $1 million.
They make 400,000. Okay, the average man in the United States makes how much?
Oh God, probably like 45,000.
About 37.
Yeah.
So it's lower than a lot of people think. And then when you start stratifying men based on their income, man, it becomes really hard to keep them to yourself. That becomes a serious issue because a lot of women are like, I want a guy who makes 500,000 or 200,000 a year, but that's less than 1% of men. You saying? But that's the problem. Whereas when we look back and we're like, I want someone who's young and is just going to not have a high body count and be loyal to me, that's like 14% of women. So that's the problem. That's where the difference is. If there's only 0.2% of me and there's 14% for you, that the fractions don't work out. And that's why a lot of women complain because they keep dating Brock the bartender or whoever, Mike the male stripper, and over again, they're like, why does he keep cheating? And the reason why is because there's so few of him and there's so many, not to denigrate any of you, but there's so many of you. And that's the problem. So the supply and demand curve, when we don't look at it realistically, it becomes a serious problem. And that's the problem. So now on top of that, when we have a selection bias, then on top of that, you're doing only. What I'm saying is all of these things go into it where it's like, she's hot, she doesn't recreational use only, but I'm not going to wipe her up, and it becomes an issue. But
wait, you said three traits that you found attractive. Like that's what men look for, like in the top % of men, right? Like loyalty, not high body count, right? Yeah. But do you think that is a little hypocritical? It's
certainly hypocritical.
Why is it a bad thing if a man takes care of a woman?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. What I think is a bad thing is then that a man finds a woman that is able to make a lot of money or does something, and that's less attractive. Right? I will say
competition.
No.
That's probably true. And not. Let's just say that this woman's not even a fucking OnlyFans, right? This woman is literally like she's a CEO of a Forbes 500 company, right? And the man next to her is like he's also in a Forbes 500 company, but he's probably not going to pick her because she threatens his ego.
Let me land this plane real quick. Okay, so here's the thing: is the number one reason for divorce, and women initiate 75% of divorces right now. The number one reason for divorce is because the woman and the man were making equal, or the man was making more.
Oh, the woman was making more.
The woman was when the woman begins to make more, that's what precipitates divorce. It is the woman that divorces the guy who does not have as much money because now she's in a different tax bracket, she's in a new status. She's like, why am I with this bro? When I can get with these guys that I'm working with 40 hours a week who I have to answer to because they're my supervisors. They are above me in rank in this, whatever this hierarchy is in the American workplace. Why am I going to listen to what my husband has to say? He don't make as much money as I do. I make more and he's out the door. Do you understand what I'm saying? The reason for that is because women are built that way. And we come all the way full circle once again. Women are the vulnerable sex. Men are the sacrificial / disposable sex. We have to go because
women
men
get naked and men burn themselves on fire for like a protest, right? They put themselves on fire.
No, but we do die. We are like significantly 4 times likely to die from suicide. We're far more likely to die.
Men die from suicide. They die higher risk at work. They die more often. They die from suicide. They die from work. They die from military deaths.
They die from violence.
Die from male-on-male violence.
Male-on-male violence.
But if you would bring that back to like the basics of whatever, to live, to exist, right? Men are far more likely to die than women, right? Does that make a man less, you know what I mean? When you say you look at a woman, whether or not they can reproduce for you, right? And that's fundamentally that's right. That's how life we go on, right?
Yeah, sure.
You look at a woman like whether or not she have wide hips, does she have big tits, you know, whatever, is she young, youthful? Those are things that you find attractive, right? Now, but men themselves, right, are far more likely to die or for whatever reason, like than women, right?
Yes.
So does that make you, you know, when you talk about what species is kind of, I don't want to say inferior or superior, right?
We're not saying it's superior.
Well, I'm not saying either, but I'm just saying when you say what's more likely to outlive another, it's
women are far more likely to outlive men.
Yes.
51% of the human population is female. 49% is male, and the difference is because women live to 70. Women live to 78. Men live to 72. The reason why is we're 4 times more likely to commit suicide. By the way, men and women attempt suicide at the same rate. Men commit suicide at a much higher rate. When men are divorced after the age of 40 and they have lost their money, they are 9 times as likely to commit suicide. 78% of divorces are initiated by women. Below the age of 30, 33% of men have 0 sexual partners. Men are far more likely to die from violence. Men are far more likely to die from cancer, heart disease, lung disease. That's the problem. That's the issue that happens. We're not complaining, by the way. Nobody here is saying that we're a victim. The point is that's the reason why. We are the disposable sex.
Well, I'm glad you guys are talking about this because I feel like it's not talked about enough, and there's not enough help for men because men feel like they can't share their feelings because women have such strong
true. Yes, when men are
views
victims,
on men.
yes. So when men are victims of domestic abuse, which does happen, and there are actually male domestic. The problem is, anytime if I got hit by a woman and I go tell my friends, they will fucking laugh at me. I'm sorry. I don't care what she says. They will 100% laugh at me, and I can't go off and you're correct about that. My feelings towards self-delete in my life, me going to talk to my friends, men are not encouraged to go express themselves.
And you know what? And women are going to cut you down and tell you to be a man up.
That's correct.
Like, rub some dirt on it. It's not okay. It's not talked about enough, and there's not enough emotional support for men, and it makes me super frustrated.
Let me just hold that thought. When you say vulnerability and they can't talk about their feelings, it's not talking about feelings. Everything we've said up here right now has been factual. It's not like I feel like this happened. I know this is happening. I think this is happening. I hear the stats, hear the studies, and that's actually the problem. You can't express what we have said in a public format because the FBI will call you and Chad or a Stacy or a Red Pill or a Manosphere
that's
guys.
the problem. It's not okay.
The moment you bring that up in a public forum is the moment they try to literally silence you in the most violent and the quickest way they possibly can.
As far as infantry is concerned, there is a standard, like for instance, in police forces, there is a standard for women and a standard for men, and those are 2 different standards. And that seems fine until your child is kidnapped. Then those standards are very different, and you guys are like, no, I want men going after to chase this motherfucker. That's where things change. That's not right or wrong. Women are better at sussing out hierarchies. Women are definitely, like you said before, women can have children. Hold on, can we say that? Are we canceled? Women have children. It's is or isn't. That's all it is.
The realm. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said in the beginning. You live in the realm of is or isn't.
The problem is, Gia, you live in that same world too.
You just agreed
but listen,
to it.
no. What I'm saying is that a female, right? Like you're putting evidence or examples of violence. Maybe it doesn't have to go violent.
No, but at the end, once we push to the edges of society, there's a reason why England is not the rule. Why King Charles no longer ruled the colonies because of violence. There's a reason why Jefferson Davis was not able to separate the Confederacy from the Union because of violence.
Correct. But does that make it? Now we're the most evolutionized species, right? No. Does that mean that we can continue the violence, right?
No.
Does that mean we have to
hold on, time out. When we push to the edges of society, like for instance, Russia's a petro-state, they invaded Ukraine. At some point, you can't say, why don't women take a charge of this and stop all this violence? No, they've invaded. Something has to be done. Someone has to bring tanks to bear. Someone has to bring arms to bear. You can't just keep saying, why don't we all just be rational and get along? It does not work that way.
Because women have feelings, and we're going to come down to a conference meeting, and we're going to start crying. And we're going to be like, oh my God, my country's just we're struggling so much because like we can't do this, we can't do that. Like we can't, like we just can't do this. Like men, they're just like, all right, this and this needs to be done. And we're gonna do it. Women aren't gonna do that. Women aren't gonna do what needs to be done. That's why, because we have feelings.
Wait, direct traffic.
That's literally patriarchy.
This is why we don't have this.
So I agree with you, except for the fact it should have been worded as everyone has feelings. Women are more emotional. Men are more
there you go.
logical.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you.
But that doesn't make them less logical.
Time out.
We're still logical, but we're gonna bring our emotional. We're gonna bring our emotional feelings
more
into
likely to make a decision based on logic. We're more likely.
So you mean to tell me that you mean to tell me that there's any logic in the violence of anything, right?
No, hold on. Time out.
Absolutely.
It's not that. Hold on. It's not. There's no logic in Hitler invading Russia in 1944, 45. Somebody remind me. The logic was Stalin defending himself. There was no logic in Germany invading France. There was logic in the United States and UK invading Normandy to stop the invasion of the Nazis. That's what happens. It's not violence. It is that violence sometimes has to be met with violence, and that is perfectly logical. That is the only way that it can work. When someone breaks into my house, I will shoot them.
And I don't disagree with that any means, but I'm just saying that perhaps that we can pretend in the future change the way we view things, the way we approach things.
We do. This is the least violent.
And I will say,
time in history.
And I will say that, like,